get outdoors on WHTL. Are you ready? From the deepest woods to the open waters, from the rocky trails to the snowy tracks, if that happens outdoors, we're talking about it. From fishing to hiking to hunting to trail riding, we cover it all. Brought to you by Petrick Service Station, Holden Sporting Goods, Black River Express, Low Hardware, the Levis Drum Rail Riders, the Elk Ride and Gun Club, Triplo County Economic Development and Tourism, and the Associated Conservation Clubs with Triplo County. So tighten up your boots, check your hook, and fire up the engine. The adventure starts now.
That's right, and it is an adventure, especially this morning. A little cold to get outdoors, but, just bundle up and do the things. Today on Get Outdoors, I'm going to be joined by Scott McConnell, but before we do that, we want to talk a little bit about the Blair Sportsman's Club Shooting for a Cure that's going on October 31st. If you want to get involved in that, make sure to reach out to the Blair Sportsman's Club. We'll talk more about it as we get through here, but since I have Scott McConnell right here with me, good morning, Scott. How are you?
Good morning. Well, thank you very much for the invitation.
Yes, and you work down at the Whitehall School District, am I correct?
Correct, yeah. This is year number 11 here for me at Whitehall.
All right, so, well, like I said, you're the new guy too, then we'll say.
Yeah. Well,
11 years now.
Per se, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
you're in it. And what is your role at the school there?
So, I'm the high school life science educator, so I do the biology, the anatomy and physiology, and a number of different electives, but on the life science portion of the high school curriculum.
Okay, that sounds good. And we were talking a little bit about things you're doing, and you are involved in the trap shooting team, right?
So about 7 years ago, I kind of drew towards an opportunity for kids to be able to compete in the non-traditional athletic competitions, and then the clay target team kind of struck with me as a possibility, and I basically got a lot of support locally. We had a donation from R.J. Jarowski for an entire enclosed trailer for our competition. We got a thrower donated, clay target thrower donated from the Whitehall Rod and Gun, and then from that, really we took off with a number of kids that are interested in it, and we've been competing for the last 6 seasons, and finished in the top half of our conference every year. So it's been a nice opportunity for that.
Yeah, that is so great. And do you have both like boys and girls involved in it too?
Correct. It is. Okay. It is multi-gender. So we have it's open for females and males.
Okay.
Actually, we had a couple of years ago, Callie Larson was one of our top shooters, and I've always been interested in that, because sometimes we get into the gender differences where males typically are better at marksmanship and stuff like that, and actually that's not true. The average male is probably a little better than the female, but some of the world's best are absolutely female. So it's really bridges the gender differences with that, and to watch the kids compete back and forth on the same playing field is a very special opportunity for those kids.
Really? That's great. And where do you do the trap shooting? Is that...
So we've got a number of access points for that, but we typically go out to the Whitehall Rod and Gun.
Okay.
And this is a spring season, so I've got to make sure that we're talking about that. There is 2 seasons. Mm-hmm. We are actually associated with the Wisconsin State High School Clay Target, which is associated with the USA Clay Target. So they do a nice job of kind of formulating the conferences. Mm-hmm. So the conferences are determined specifically by the number of members that you have. So the bigger the membership, the bigger the conference that you get into. And you can be competing against, I think last year we were competing against a team from Door County. Okay. And kind of worked back and forth within the conference. And usually conferences are about 10 schools. Mm-hmm. And our season runs roughly about 6 weeks, 7 weeks with kind of a training week. We have a reserve week. That's our first one. And then if an individual is unable to compete that specific week, then we can take that reserve score, and then they compute it. Basically, the system that USA Clay Target and Wisconsin State High School Clay Target does is really, formulates all the data and then, creates the spreadsheet that we can, look at and compare. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what ages can you be to join this? If kids are looking.
Yep. There is divisions with the junior high.
Okay.
But at Whitehall, we try to focus on the high school portion of that. So, yeah, basically anybody from freshman all the way up to senior can compete on that. And it's a very, I think, economical thing. We have a lot of really nice donations. Certainly the driftless whitetails, formerly the Mississippi Valley Whitetails Unlimited, does a great job of sponsoring whether it's the clay targets or the ammunition. We can really do that at a minimal cost. I think it's $35 for the registration for the USA and Wisconsin Clay Target. And then after that, we really don't have a whole lot of cost for the kids. So it's a very, I think, for 6-7 weeks, and you're shooting 50 rounds every week for $35 is probably a pretty good deal. So
no kidding. And I suppose kids have to go through hunter safety and stuff to get involved. And,
so the restrictions, or I don't know if it's a restriction, but the requirement certainly is that you have to have either the hunter education certification, or you have to go through, I think it's abbreviated class, where you have to go through the specifics on that to show your level of competence with a firearm. But most of the kids, I think all of the kids actually that have competed, at least for our squad, have already had their hunter education class. So
okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that's great. And, we talk about sports all the time, local sports and things like that. And, you hear about injuries in sports and stuff. And one of the facts that I learned from this is the safest sport in Wisconsin.
It is. It actually holds, I think, 2 categories. The first one is the safest, as you mentioned, and the second one is the most membership.
Oh, wow.
Nationally. It's the fastest growing with that. And, with gun education, we can talk about hunter safety too as well, but, with gun education and good, advisory, there's it really minimizes that that opportunity for incidents with that, and I think it's every coach's responsibility, and they're really their passion for it. They want to try to get in as much out of the kid, and part of that is the respect piece of the firearm. So I think it's a good opportunity for kids to be able to have that full circle type competence.
Okay. Do you have anything coming up that can people go to these events and observe this too?
So like I said, the spring, our spring season starts in April.
Okay.
And then it runs for the 6 weeks. But we've had people, usually it's parents, obviously, that come down and watch and maybe critique, maybe not, depending on the mom or dad. But it's an opportunity for people to even come in and participate from a spectator portion of that. So
yeah. And if local kids want to get involved, how do they get involved? Just come talk to you, or?
Well, there's a lot of different organizations. Okay. I know we're certainly not the only school in the Dairyland that offers this. I think just about every school has it.
Okay.
They might not be associated with the USA Clay Target. They might have it more of a, just kind of a local gathering or a get-together where they can compete really against each other. And then that saves them that $35 fee as well. Certainly any high school in the Dairyland, I would certainly think that you could contact them with that. And certainly if, anybody would be interested that wouldn't have a school associated with that, certainly can contact us at Whitehall here and be able to inquire about that. So
yeah. Oh, that is so much fun. And we were talking before we went on air. We can switch gears a little bit, unless you got something else we want to cover on that.
No.
We were talking about some of the things you do at school is you guys are raising bees. Right?
Yeah. So we are in the fall season. We typically we run about 3 hives. 2 hives we run on school grounds, and then 1 at a neutral site. Typically it's at my house. I live in the country, so it's a nice alternate experimental group that we can kind of evaluate. And we had the last survey I went out was probably about 2 weeks ago, and the bees looked good. That's obviously with the summer and the moisture that we had this year was fantastic for bee survival, bee production. So I'm really excited to see what happens. Traditionally, a lot of bee keepers would harvest their honey in the fall, which is not a bad thing. Probably maximizes your overall productivity, but we try to leave them over the winter to try to give those hives the best chance for survival, because ultimately what we try to do is try to get them through the winter, and that's always a big concern in bee keeping, because then obviously you don't have to purchase new bees in the spring, but then any hives that unfortunately don't make it, we can go in and harvest the honey. And then I think last year was an interesting year. We had 2 hives really that were successful in being able to pull from that, and we ended up with, I think, almost 6 gallons of it. So, and we sold that at the school to try to cover the cost of the purchase of the bees initially, and then I think we've been doing this for 7 years, I believe. And we take the beeswax and then we melt it in a solar oven.
Oh, wow.
And so there's no electric requirement for that. We melt it all down, and then we put it into a double boiler, and then we have the ability to add some essential oils and things like that, and then we'll add that to the jars. And I think we ended up selling almost 75 jars of candles, little canisters of candles, various scents and stuff like that. So that was a neat experience for the kids to be able to, see a different side of not just the honey, but also the resource in the honeycomb. So that was a cool opportunity for that. So
and with harvesting that and selling that, it's teaching them something about business and all that too.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about beekeeping, it's really a triple win, because one, you're doing something that the environment needs anyways with the pollination process. It's another thing for students to be able to get their hands dirty, so to speak, and sometimes the cleaning portion of it is, I really didn't expect this. Well, it's a sticky situation, So and then the other part is that, like you said, the entrepreneurship, the business component of that. What can we charge? What's a fair price? What can we get out of it to cover our costs? And it's a real it's a real triple win, in my opinion, on opportunities for kids.
Yeah, and it might be a lasting hobby from them. Like I was telling you before we went on air, I got a friend of ours that their daughter started when she was like 10, 11 years old, and we helped raise some money so she gets some equipment, and she has her own little honey business that she still runs to this day.
Yeah. I mean, it absolutely is something that, when we talk about, the allergy situations, that true local raw honey is your best bet to, almost give you a little bit of a vaccination throughout the year. Because when those pollens show up, your body's like, oh, yeah, I remember this. So then you can kind of reduce those symptoms a little bit of that once they show up. So plus it's a natural sugar. It's not a processed sugar. Yeah. And I know there's a lot of, discussion about, how to, be able to be as healthy as possible. And a lot of that really comes down to, that trying to avoid as much processing with that. So yeah, it's a good opportunity.
Yeah, and that local sourced honey is the best. I got a friend who does it just down the road from me, it's you can't beat it. So good. And one more thing about bees that I just heard this the other day, so I want to know if it's true since you're the bee expert. Okay. So bees, are they actually considered livestock because they're not native to here, or is that kind of a Wayne thing? Maybe it's because we've just turned them into livestock.
Yes and no.
Okay.
I think when we think of livestock, I think a lot of that is a food source supply. Yeah. And it's really up to the hive to be able to go out and fend for themselves as far as the food source. Some apiaries will run some sugar water and stuff, especially early in the year, to try to subsidize some of that sugar if the pollen and the local flora is not producing. So I guess that might be a little bit, but I think I think there's a degree, a gray area of how to separate, what we would consider livestock and what would be considered something that would be different on that.
All right. Yeah. Well, I've seen it on a Facebook reel, so sure. Everything on Facebook's true, right?
There's plenty of stuff on there. That's for sure.
Plenty of stuff.
Plenty of stuff. So,
well, what else do we want to cover today?
Well, I guess the hunter education piece of it, and then I'll probably end with the youth season that's coming up. So the hunter education course is an offering that actually I teach through the summer school program, and I'm not the only one locally. Strum has one, and Junior Prudlick I know does a nice job with some of the classes but you'll hear various things where there'll be classes on that. But if any individual, not necessarily doesn't have to be a Whitehall student, obviously I've had a number of different people from actually all over the state to come in and take that hunter education course. That's going to be offered sometime in our summer school program. Usually it's the third week in July, but that can change a little bit. But make sure if you have a young kid that's involved and certainly is interested in taking that course with me, certainly they can contact the school and put their name on the waiting list and contact information so we can get that stuff out. Usually the summer school program info comes out about, I'm going to say May. Okay. But if they can get their name on that list, we can get a heads up on them and make sure that they get enrolled for that. So the summer school platform is a week long. It's from 8:30 to 11:30 for a week. We have a conservation warden, DNR warden, come in and talk. They always do a nice job of really, I think, subduing the awe sometimes, with a warden coming in, and they do a great job with trying to really connect that we're people too, and so that's always a good opportunity for those kids to do that and be able to really, I always talk about with the kids, there's really three main things that you need to really understand, and the first one is select. when you're looking at hunter education, it's important that we understand that the selection of a firearm is important.
Yeah.
And whether it's the action of the firearm, the gauge or the caliber, I think that's a critical part to make sure that these young hunters aren't overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. And there's plenty of options. I know there's low recoil options for ammunition, to be able to really make sure that you err on the caution side, to be able to make that experience as positive as possible and not overwhelming.
Yeah.
You ask any 50-year-old or older hunter, they all started with the 22.
Yeah.
And low recoil, but still requires that respect piece of it. So, to be able to make sure that you're selecting the firearm and then protecting. So, being able to understand that they having a clean firearm, where you're storing it, where you're transporting it, making sure that it's in a safe situation, whether it's in travel or it's in the home.
Yeah.
I think it's not any surprise that in rural cities you do have a greater membership or connection to firearms, and with that comes that responsibility piece of it, and protection is that big piece of it, where you do have to have a way of storing that firearm responsibly, and then storing that ammunition in a separate location, to be able to make sure that they're not always together.
Yeah.
So and the last one is respect. So it's select, it's protect, and it's respect.
Yeah.
And that last piece, I think, is vitally important for students to gain. And I think the best way to do that is through hunter education, through a physical class, where we're really fortunate. The Department of Natural Resources supplies us with firearms, but the mechanisms for firing have been removed.
Okay.
So they are not capable at all of discharging any ammunition. So they give you that level of security, but then also as you watch students handle them, you have to re-educate in some cases if they grew up with Nerf guns.
Yeah.
That's a I don't know if it's necessarily a hurdle. It's something that you have to navigate through to make sure that now that this is different.
Yep.
This is now that's where that respect piece, where you don't need that with a Nerf gun, but you do with a firearm for obvious reasons. So then to be able to make that connection of all three of those levels, I think is a great thing to have, primarily because you have the ability to hunt if you would like to. In some cases, firearms in the household. And then I always tell kids, I said, you never know who you're going to end up marrying or having a relationship with. And a lot of times there's a situation where if you have that hunter education piece, and even if you don't ever foresee yourself hunting, you might not always, not see yourself as a hunter, and giving that opportunity for kids as they go through and become adults to, really take appreciation for. And we live in a very special place. The driftless area of Wisconsin has a whole lot of geological connection historically, and you talk to a lot of people that come and visit here. They comment very often that this is a very rare place.
Yes.
So
a beautiful place to live.
Absolutely.
And even better to hunt.
We are very blessed.
Yeah. Well, Scott, is there anything else you want to cover before we get going?
We do have the youth season coming up, and that's coming up this weekend.
Okay.
So I just want to clarify maybe some of the things, because it is a little confusing, I think, on how that dynamics work. So the big thing is that what does it qualify as a youth? Because I get that question once in a while. A youth is defined as a kid that is 15 years old or younger.
Okay.
So 16 and 17-year-olds are not they're not eligible for that youth hunt perspective. I get a question of, okay, what if my kid is 11 or less? They're eligible.
Okay.
What about 12 to 15? They're all eligible for this youth hunt that's going to be coming up. The big question is, do they have their hunter education? And if they're 12 to 15 and they have the hunter education, then they must be required to be accompanied by an adult. But the adult doesn't have to have a hunter education, because the person that
has
the person that's actually doing the hunting already has that qualification. And I think the DNR does a good job to try to promote that, to create a family balance with it, or a camaraderie that comes with hunting. So that's a good thing. If they're 12 to 15 and don't have their hunter education, then they do have to be mentored by a person that does have that. Yep. So if they're 11 or under, then both of them, whether they have their hunter education or not, has to be mentored with an individual that does have that. And obviously, the DNR has opportunities for a lot of harvest options. I know whenever you purchase your hunter education, by the way, that can be found at gowild.com. And they have a whole number. When you buy your license, you're going to get at least a couple antlerless tags, because we've got plenty of deer, and certainly that it's a great resource for people to be able to take advantage of. There's a lot of local butcher shops and places that are willing to take that in if you're kind of concerned about them, and they're the experts. If you have questions about them, they'll guide you in the right way. And then the other thing is about, how can we carry? How does the kid, can they carry or not? And the answer is, if they don't have that certification and they're 11 or under, they can't carry it. The mentor has to be carrying it, and then and they have to be within arm's reach. So at all times, so they can transfer that firearm over to harvest the deer, but then obviously that mentor takes the responsibility over it if they're 11 and under and don't have that hunter education. So,
a lot of great information this morning. So.
Absolutely.
And perfect for this time of year.
I mean, what is not going on?
No kidding.
I mean, with the Brewers doing a fantastic job, they gave the Cubs a little bit of an opportunity. So, but we'll see tonight, and then the Packers going on, and we've got the youth hunt coming up, and the cooler weather. It's a very exciting time.
It is.
Very much so.
Well, Scott, thank you so much for being here. Anything else you want to say before we get going today?
Not at all. I'm good. Thanks for the opportunity. And
no problem.
Any of those youth hunters out there, good luck and enjoy it.
Yeah, thank you. We've been talking with Scott McConnell here on Get Outdoors. We're going to jump right back into the music right after this.
Start your day with the good stuff.
All right, make it extra large, 2 sugars, lots of cream.
Coffee with Brian.
Somebody said something about coffee.
Brewing up music and more.
Coffee drinker, huh?
Every week.